if you were to try and pass a bill in the House of Commons, you have about 40% success rate. As an industry, construction and infrastructure delivers on time and on budget much less often than that. Right? And the single leading cause of delays and disruption, of cost overrun, and of disputes in construction and infrastructure is change. So let's have a look at how that works. The thing is, in the regular course of developing any scheme, you're going to go through thousands, sometimes more, changes. And these are interconnected, interrelated changes that have a tendency to compound. So if you want to move a structural beam or a utility shaft, you can't just move a shaft without everything it's connected to. You need to redesign the connecting elements. You need to make sure the utilities still fit within it. And you need to rearrange the schedules of the subcontractors that need to put all of those utilities in the shaft. And not unimportantly, you need a whole lot of people to know the shaft has moved. And surprising to anyone not in construction how hard that is to achieve, the knowing part. Right? And the reason for that is, as Tom mentioned, the basic medium of communicating design intent in construction are drawings. These are, for all matters and intents, big pieces of papers with a lot of lines on them. And so it's entirely normal to see grown-up engineers and QSs paid quite a lot sit down for days and weeks, literally flicking between pieces of paper with a highlighter, trying to figure out what the project looks like now. And that's not only time-consuming, it's also extremely prone to error. So enter ShapeDo. ShapeDo is the only service that enables end-to-end change management within construction and infrastructure projects. It's not the only technology provider that enables it, it's the only service you can get, process, engineering, or technology that enables that. How do we do that? So we start off where it all begins, which is the construction drawing. And what we have is, based on extensive R&D, the ability to really quickly, easily show you exactly what has changed between version and version. And what that does is it takes an exercise that takes the best part of an hour, namely to review a drawing, and makes it 2-3 minutes long. And on top of that, it all but eradicates the margin for error, because you can see exactly what's changed. Now, around that, we can build a process where, now that it's really cheap and reliable to know what changed in the drawing, you can actually have all the relevant stakeholders in the project look at all the drawings and review them. And then, quite simply around that, perform the ancillary processes. So coordinate them out into the site and through the supply chain into construction, cost them insofar as they affect costs or make decisions about the cost, and finally figure out what the impact of it is on the schedule to realign the schedule, right? And at the end of all of that, once all the relevant stakeholders have seen all the changes, dealt with them, signed off of them, you've actually eliminated the single biggest risk to construction and infrastructure projects, right? So just to put that in value terms, so at the director level, at the highest level, what you have is, instead of a rather tumultuous, chaotic process, you suddenly have a very structured process that tells everyone exactly what to do. And if everyone did it, then you know that you're okay and you have transparency and accountability. And if they didn't, the software tells you. Unfortunately, we were too late for Crossrail. Second of all, just in sheer numbers, there are thousands of drawings that change in a large construction and infrastructure project. Each drawing needs to be reviewed by multiple people on the project. Each time that is done takes an hour of engineer or QS time. That adds up to many thousands or tens of thousands of engineer hours on every single project. And finally, just having that conversation, which is informed in the context of seeing exactly what's going on in the project and proactively addressing it, creates a much more collaborative, helpful environment where people are proactively solving problems and avoiding disputes. So, we've been deployed in over 100 projects to date. That ranges from tiny subcontractor packages solving local issues, all the way up to new build airports, data centers, and rail systems. And the reactions to that have been just as diverse. So this leads up from the commercial directors of the massive schemes, appreciating the transparency and process that is embedded in the system, all the way down to the QS, who simply is happy to not have 2 weeks of looking at drawings and crying, which is the default.